Okay, I want to talk about a couple other flow charting symbols and why we need them. So at some point in most programs, you're going to have to what's called make a decision or do one thing or another. Here's what I mean. Suppose in a program you wanted to calculate shipping, but if somebody lived in a particular state, maybe they got free shipping. So unlike a typical program that would just go from top to bottom, you'd have to make a decision if they lived, let's say, in California, they get free shipping. Otherwise, you have to add $4 shipping. So at that point, you have to make a decision and send your program down one way or another, or one branch, or however you want to think about that. So in flow charting, there's a couple specific symbols to do that, and I'm not going to go deep into examples in this video. I'll do that in other videos, but I just want to talk about these two symbols, how they work, and the syntax for them. Okay, so the decision symbol, so we've seen three symbols so far. We've seen the termination, the input-output, and the process. You'll use a lot of those in every one of your flowcharts. But if you want to do a decision, let's say if the person is over 65, do one thing, otherwise do something else, you would have to use this diamond to represent that decision or that branch in your program. And the connector is just a small circle, right? So we've got the parallelogram, the rectangle, that thing, whatever you call it. So now we have a diamond and a small circle. The diamond represents the branch, do one thing or another, and the connector just brings them back together. So let's look at how they work. So we're not concerned about this example particularly, but we are concerned about the syntax of how you use the diamond, how you use the connector. Okay, so instead of going straight top to bottom, we now have sort of a program that does one thing or another. So inside your diamond, you're going to have to put some kind of comparison. It could say, is state equal to California, or is age greater than 65? In this case, we have a driving example, but typically inside your diamond, you're going to be comparing one thing to another. So this could say age equals 22, or age less than 65, whatever it might have. And then you have a question mark. Okay, so that one's a little bit different. So you have, in this case, a variable, a comparison, could be equal, less to, lesser than, greater than, typically a value, and then a question mark. So that's what goes inside the diamond. We'll see a couple more examples of these and we'll get more used to that syntax, but the diamond should contain one thing, comparison operator, another thing, and a question mark. Notice at that point, so don't worry about this stuff, but notice at that point, instead of something coming out of the bottom, you have something coming out of each side of the diamond. So one arrow goes into the diamond, and then one arrow comes out of each side. And when you do that, you need to specify a yes or a no so that somebody reading this flowchart will know which is which. So let's not worry too much about this particular example in this video, but we've got a comparison inside our diamond. We've got arrows going out of each side. That's the whole point of an if statement or a comparison. And then on one side or another, you're going to have a yes or a no. So you can have the yes over here and the no over here, but you need to have a yes and a no, and you need to designate that in your flowchart. But getting back to that little circle, that's where it needs to connect back together. So if anytime you have a diamond, you need to have a corresponding connector or a decision symbol. You need a connection symbol. So at some point, those two branches that branched off of that diamond need to come back together into that little circle, which is the connector. So that's pretty straightforward. So we could have a lot of steps over here and a bunch of steps over here, but at some point, those two branches, if you want to think of them that way, need to come back together into that connector. The connector doesn't have anything in it. It's just basically an empty circle that corresponds with the diamond.